8, 7, 6, 7, 8, 8, 8. Okay. So we've got different levels of confidence. 7. Okay. And I think more importantly, though, is not so much how confident you are, but it's this question here. And it is, what does self-confidence look like? And I think that is a really pertinent question. What does self-confidence look like? And this is one of those sessions where you come off your mic, you talk to us, and you tell us what you think self-confidence looks like. So if you've got any thoughts on the topic, anyone who wants to chat, let me know. I can't see all the hands going up, so it's happy if you just come off mic and start talking. In your mind, what does self-confidence look like?
Can you hear me?
I can. Thanks, Steve.
Okay.
You want to go?
Okay. Yeah. Hello to everyone. And yeah, I think self-confidence is believing in yourself and not letting negative words or other people's issues affect you.
Okay, so not letting other people's words or issues affect you. Any other thoughts in the room on what self-confidence looks like? Anyone want to add to that?
It's Petrolina. Hi, everybody.
Hi there.
I think about confidence. Confidence is not something you get, right? It's something you develop. So I would say it's really about self-awareness. Where you are at in your self-awareness journey will help you to understand what it is that you need to develop in terms of self-confidence.
Okay, thank you for that. Any other thoughts?
Yeah, it's Kathy here. I think confidence looks like stepping up to opportunities without a lot of doubt that holds you back. So it's diving in head first to things that appear in your path that can lead you towards where you want to go.
Okay. Anyone want to add? Yeah, Jody.
Yeah, that's Jody. Yeah, hi. I was also thinking it's kind of being able to be authentic without being sort of too self-conscious about it. So you're able to just be yourself, but not be without, you know, kind of thinking, what does everybody think and what does everybody feel and worrying about it.
So not worrying about what others are thinking. Any other thoughts on what self-confidence looks like? Shabs, you've come off mic.
Yes. So I would think it's actually, you know, truly understanding what your strengths and weaknesses are, and not dwelling too much on your weaknesses, but also stepping up to what your strengths are and using it to the best of your ability. So, I mean, you know, the thing is, it's very difficult to know that you have a weakness. And actually, sometimes we home in on our weakness and we actually forget what our strengths are. So that self-confidence is like looking at, you know, what am I good at? What can I add? How can I add value with the strengths that I have? And if I have any weaknesses, what support can I get to maybe to bolster that and maybe look for a support system that can get me where I need to. But you know, the thing is, we don't always need to know everything about everything.
That's a very valid point. We don't need to know everything about everything.
Yes.
And sometimes I think we do. We feel, or sorry, I should say we feel we do. We have this feeling like if I don't know enough, then people are going to find me out. They're going to see me as a fraud.
Yes, because I think also we have a certain pattern that we develop after a period of time, because you have so many different roles as a woman that you have to fulfill. You're a mother, you're a businesswoman, you're a wife, you're a helper, you're everything.
Yeah.
So those roles, they sort of merge, and somehow when you go into a specific role and you need to operate in that role, you actually you act down. So you don't come into your actual power and present yourself in that power in that specific time.
And I think you bring up a good point, because in different roles, we have different levels of confidence as well. How does that resonate with everyone on the call? Anyone who wants to add to that?
Yeah, hello, this is Khulud.
Yes.
Yeah, I would like to add, I'm thinking while I'm listening to everybody answer, like when we are children, how do we have our confidence naturally, and how does it change by time according to what reaction we get from the people around us? And either it can become much stronger, or it can disappear actually when, yeah, according to what is that reaction or feedback from people around you, especially when we are children. However, growing into being mature and adults and having different roles in our life, I think we start again to regain and discover our abilities and our strengths in the different roles we are playing. And then we discover in a moment that, oh, wow, as a mother, no one can tell me at all that I'm a good or not good enough. And from here, anybody can then decide how the confidence comes from self-assessment in this stage. Like as a mother, I will not expect someone else to tell me how good mother I am, because this is something from inside me coming as instinct, being a mother, what is the job I'm doing with my children. And here I can recognize my level of confidence, and slowly you can regain it and rebuild it, rebuild the level of confidence if you want, even if you have lost it by time, but you can rebuild it again.
It's an interesting comment you make, because sometimes I think in certain roles, like being a mom or a mother, we are more confident than in other roles. Where are the different places where we have differences in confidence? So for example, as a mom or a mother, might be very confident, but in certain roles, like, I don't know, for me, it's going and doing marketing. When I have to go into a marketing meeting with strangers, I'm not so great. I can do networking on a computer, but send me to a networking event in person and I'll sit in a corner and I won't talk to anyone. I lack confidence in that particular situation. So how does our confidence change depending on the situation?
I think knowledge plays a big part. But now one has to understand the knowledge, right? Because you have the networking, if we take your example, you have the networking knowledge, but it's that there's something around the knowledge part that one still needs to gain in a role. And I think oftentimes we don't know what that is, which brings me back to the self-awareness. If you start to look and dive into that, you could potentially find out what it is, which we know might have nothing to do with the actual event, right? So yeah, I think it does come down to knowledge a lot. Depending on how much knowledge you have will definitely determine how confident you are, especially in work related scenarios.
Okay, interesting. Sithokozile, you were going to talk?
For me, I feel like it's, even with like you have a lot of knowledge, you can still feel kind of worried about how much you know. I've always felt that like you get more confidence when you feel like you're not gonna get a hostile reaction from other people. Like it's fine if you're wrong, but as long as people are not gonna tear you down, but offer like more positive, constructive feedback.
Okay, so it also depends on the reaction that you expect, which is quite interesting because you're almost preempting the conversation by assuming that there's a reaction that's going to come, and that changes your level of confidence in approaching a situation. I like that. Lorata?
Hi, everyone. I also think your personality type also plays a huge role in your confidence level, because if you are an outgoing person like myself, you can display confidence, whether that is confidence or just being yourself. That for me is one of the big things that play a role in self-confidence.
Can I add to that? Because she's
Yeah.
just said what I wanted to say. So
Me too.
I just want to add, because I had two things, and the first one is the lady before me. So the second one is I just look at my children, and you know, when my daughter comes home from having written an exam, she'll say to me, "Oh, I really did okay." But I've come to realize when she say okay, I've got to expect to fail. And then I have my son who comes back home and says, "Oh no, that was a horrible exam," and gets 90%. So it's also a case of, as the lady before said, sorry, I can't remember who it was, but you know, it is your personality, but it's also with your, I don't know how to explain it, but with your personality comes how you perceive things. And so obviously my children perceive things differently, you know. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Any other thoughts? Yeah.
Shanti, can I say something?
Go for it. Who's that?
Lynette.
Go for it, Lynette.
I also think confidence comes with believing in what you are doing. When you know that what you are doing, you can do very, very well in whatever area you are working, and starting with a mum, as that other lady said, I think confidence comes with believing in what you are doing and you're doing well.
Definitely. Shiksa, you're off mic? Mute, or you wanted to say something?
I also agree with like the personality of people, type of personality affects in the confidence a lot, because for me, I have experienced the same thing, because when I participate in some event, like in some event, if I can be very, you know, I can explain my things, I can be more confident and do whatever I do. But sometimes in a similar kind of event, I could not deliberate my thing very confidently. So like nature, like not very like if you are introvert or some kind of people, when you see some people, dominating people, then outgoing, more outspoken people, then you feel like, oh, like now they're going to judge me, or like, you know, that kind of thing comes to in your mind, and you become like less confident in the same kind of events, like, you know. So yeah, that's my experience.
Cool. Narata?
Raised. No, I don't want to say anything. I think I didn't lower my hand. But I just have a question maybe the team can help me with. My son is 9 years old, and he's generally a very confident young man. He's been going to school, and he's been okay with going to school, but now he refuses to go to school, and that's now manifested as sickness. So he's been crying about tummy aches and one of the things is that the teacher is not being very nice to him. So I want to know, how do I go about rebuilding his confidence? Maybe it's something you'll touch upon later, but that I'm looking forward to hearing about how maybe other people have seen it with themselves. You know, if you've had a horrible boss, how do you grow your self-confidence back? And how can I help my little one also do that?
So that's definitely something we will be chatting about in a bit. I'm going to talk through 2 more slides first and a little bit of theory, and then we'll get there. Is that all right, Larata?
That's perfect.
Cool. So I just want to talk to you a little bit about a concept called the imposter syndrome. And the reason I'm talking about it is it's come through quite a bit in the last little bit, as I've been sharing a lot of posts on the concepts of self-confidence, believing in self, and a few people have inboxed me. And so I decided to do a bit of research. Not perfect research, and there's a book I'm definitely going to be reading because it seems to be the most recommended book. But the imposter syndrome is something that has been researched since 1948. And research is showing that 70% of people feel this. So in certain situations, they feel like a fake or a fraud. They believe they're not intelligent, capable, or creative enough. They live in constant fear of being exposed as a fraud. They attribute their success to luck. They feel inadequate, as if they don't belong. They believe that they don't deserve the job or success that they have achieved. So it's quite a scary thing, this imposter syndrome, when you start reading about it. But I think every person within the call at some point has probably felt something here. It feels sometimes like, it might not be all the time and not but every day, but there'll be certain situations where you walk into a room or you participate in something and you kind of go, ooh, maybe not. I mean, I remember the very first time someone said to me, but how come your daughter has blonde hair? And my first response was, well, you don't need to know she's adopted. But then I thought about it after, and I remembered I actually had blonde hair as a child, as did her father. So the fact she was adopted didn't matter. But what did matter was at that point in time, I felt like a fake or a fraud, like there was a problem with me being mom. And I think we find these things happening at different times in different places. Sometimes it might be at work. Sometimes it might be with other parents when we're dealing with parents as moms. Sometimes it might be in sport. If you go and you participate in sport events, there's different times and different places where this happens. And I'd be interested and intrigued to hear what your thoughts on this are, if any of you have any thoughts on it. No one got their hand up. Okay, so I'm going to move on then, because there doesn't seem to be too many thoughts. Ntabi Singh.
Hi.
Hi there.
With me, sometimes experience feels like a fake or a fraud. I'm an accountant by profession. There was a situation where I did it was the projections that I needed to present.
Mm-hmm.
So while I'm presenting, and this guy is like throwing questions that I know, and then when I try to explain, it felt as if I didn't know what I was doing. It's more like I was the fake fraud. I felt so bad, and then I was just asking myself, what is it that I can do to build up my confidence whenever someone is throwing at questions? Because I know what I'm doing, but now I felt as if I don't know what I was doing, and I don't know what I have done, or what I don't know what I was presenting. So I felt so really bad, and that just threw me out completely. So I don't know, but this thing is real. You feel like you're a fake or you're a fraud, basically. So I really don't know. This really imposter syndrome, it does exist. Basically, I've experienced it. It's not even an old, it's a recent thing that has happened, and I felt so bad. And then it just it throws you out, and then your self-confidence, you just feel down, and you don't know basically what is it that you can do, to overcome this.
Yeah, no, that's not easy, huh? And the scary part
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah, who's that?
Deanne. Sorry, didn't mean to interrupt.
Go for it.
Can I go for it?
Go for it.
Yes.
I was just thinking that, sorry, I can't remember who is speaking now.
Sitokozile.
Sitokozile. I think perhaps you need to say to the person, I'll answer your question at the end, so that you don't feel like a fraud while you're talking, and have prepare yourself while you're talking for that, what's to come. I don't know.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, sorry, that wasn't my question. It wasn't Ntabi Singh. I had something else to offer.
Oh, sorry, it was Ntabi Singh, but yes, sorry, I'm getting muddled here. Thank you. Because Ntabi Singh took her mic off mute and then she disappeared off my list of people. That's why. Apologies. So, Sito, you had something you wanted to add to the conversation.
Yes, I did. I wanted to mention how I kind of feel this way, especially if it's something about like new opportunities that arise. Because sometimes you can kind of talk yourself out of like broadening your or pushing your limits or going out of your comfort zone because you feel like you don't really belong in that space, even though there's nothing to suggest that you don't.
Yeah, and it's hard, especially in a new environment where you are learning, but you also want to come across as confident. And I think that makes it very difficult. Francis, you've been waiting patiently.
I think so. Sita basically just said what I wanted to say. So thank you for articulating it so well. Because I think it's, for me, my imposter syndrome-ness appears when I'm trying something new. And when I walked into the coaching space, it was such a brand new thing, coming out from being a procurement supply chain professional into transformational coaching. And you're talking to me talking to a client, and I'm sitting there going, oh my God, what do I know? What do I know? What do I know? And why do they believe me? But the results themselves speak something differently. And what I started doing is hearing that feedback versus the internal critic. Because the internal critic as an adult has got years of formation. It's been years of, who do you think you are? Oh, you think you're clever, or you don't have enough qualifications, or you need to know more, you need to know more, you need to know more. And I realized that a lot of the time, this imposter syndrome manifests itself in the number of learnings or degrees or qualifications that I would try to bolster myself with. And it isn't about showing the world that I can do it, but it's also telling my internal critic, look, but I learned that and I've got this terminology and I've got this script that I can turn back to. So it's my internal critic that I'm constantly trying to prove wrong. And it was 3 weeks ago when I was like, enough. And I got into my car, one suitcase, moved to Cape Town to start a transformational coaching bit with a friend of mine. That was probably the biggest middle finger at my internal critic. But I sit a week later and my internal critic is going, how's that working for you right now? So imposter syndrome does manifest itself in so many different ways, but it's a constant conversation in appeasing that to yourself, because the world will give you the feedback. And I've been getting great feedback. So it's take what the world is saying, take the good feedback, look at it, assess it, and then, is it working? Yes. Is it not working? That's feedback to make a different change. So it's been what I'm learning to do. Is negative feedback is just feedback of you need to change something in your recipe. That's it.
Fantastic.
So thank you.
Maya, you've been waiting very patiently.
Thank you. I wanted to say, I work with a lot of graduate students and professors since I am coaching them. And imposter syndrome is a huge problem in academia. And it's incredible that some of top researchers and professors are still suffering from this syndrome. I think the problem, at least in academia, is that many PhD students are comparing themselves to their peers, and they forgot about what they about their previous successes and what they accomplished in their life, and they just focus on comparing their progress with the progress of their lab mates, for example. So I think that's the problem, and that in order to overcome this syndrome, that we have to have in our mind what we have accomplished in our life before, and to focus on these accomplishments and to see that we are not a fraud. We are in graduate school because we are worth of it. We deserve to be there.
Interesting what you say there, Maya, because I think that's one of the biggest mistakes we make. We're always comparing ourselves to others, and we should be comparing ourselves to the person we were yesterday.
Yes.
We all grow, we all learn, we all change, and we don't realize how far we've come until we reflect on that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nicoline, your hand is up, I think.
Yeah, I was thinking when Frances was speaking, I think it was she about the inner critic. Our mind only has one job, right? It's to keep you safe. So whenever you are under some sort of stress, it's going to pull you back to whatever is familiar and whatever is safe for you. Now, that safe doesn't necessarily mean it's good. So if you, let's say you want to go out and exercise, that's a new stressor, quote unquote, on your body, and it's going to pull you back and try and keep you on the couch because that is a safe space for you. The great thing about that is that it's just, your mind is just really trying to keep you safe. That is its job. And you can tell it, listen, I'm not going to listen to you today. I know what you're trying to do, but I need to do this, and this is what I'm going to do. So I think that's the great thing about it, is if we can realize that it's nothing bad, really. It's just a normal function of our mind to try and keep us safe.
Yeah, and I think that's the part that's quite interesting, is that sometimes I think because the world isn't as dangerous as it was 100, 200 years ago when our mind really needed to keep us safe, it's sometimes overprotective.
Yeah.
Isabel, is your mic off mute because you want to say something, or is it just off mute?
Yes, I want to say that in general, when a person is in a situation where he has to do a presentation for people who are in a higher category than him, the person in that situations, yes, the person gets afraid. But like when I am doing for people who are below my category, is more, or even if I'm more confident about what about this subject, is very easy for me to do that and to feel confident, because I know that I know what I'm saying, and the other people in general are not in condition to challenge me.
Yeah, and I think that's important, because sometimes what happens is exactly that. We feel more confident in a place where we have more knowledge than a place where we have less knowledge or less power, because sometimes it's also about power. I'm quickly going to go through the different categories of imposter syndrome, because it was quite fascinating. I honestly didn't know any of this stuff until a few weeks ago when I started researching. And there's a lady called Dr. Valerie, I think it's Young, who wrote a really good book. I'll send you guys the name. I'm still going to download it. I've been reading the articles for now. But the first one she talks about is the perfectionist. The perfectionist is a person who sets extremely hard targets for themselves. They set these stretching, unachievable goals, and then they feel so disappointed when they don't achieve it. Even 99% against this unachievable goal becomes a problem. The second form of imposter she talks about is what she calls the superwoman. The superwoman is someone who builds confidence or creates confidence in themselves by being the hardest worker. This is the person that works 14, 15, 16-hour days. When you go to the office, they'll be the first person there. When you leave the office, they're the last one to leave. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're better than everyone, but they're continually pushing themselves and pushing themselves to do more than anyone else. They're also the person who, if you have something to do, you go to them because they'll never say no. They'll always say yes. The third one is the natural genius. And this is an interesting one. So this is someone who finds learning easy and naturally learns quickly. But as soon as they struggle with a concept, so for example, I might be very good at academic learning, but if I came to things like biology and medical learning, I'm not so fast. I don't get it quite so quickly. That person would be stressed out because they expect to always be the first person to get it, the first person to master the concept, the first person to understand what the teacher's saying. The next one is the soloist. The soloist believes that asking for help is a sign of weakness. So they don't ask for help. They just keep trying and trying and trying on their own. They don't create a support system. They don't play to strengths, because if they ask someone else to help them, they're admitting defeat. And the last one, Frankie, this one made me think of you when you were speaking earlier, is the expert. The expert builds confidence by learning and qualifications. So they have a qualification for everything. It's probably me too, in that if I want to learn something, if I want to learn about something, I go and I do the course, I do the training, I find out about it, because I can't possibly be that person unless I have done that training. So those are the 5 types of imposter that they talk about in the literature. And I have written an article up, which I'll share with you guys after today. But I'd be curious to see which of those 5 resonates with each of you. So rather than coming off mic, perhaps in the chat box, you can each just share your thoughts as to whether you fit any of those categories. I'd be very curious to hear what you think. Okay. A few coming through here. Okay, lots of superwomen, soloists, perfectionists and superwomen. Probably the superwoman and a bit of perfectionist or superwoman. A little bit of all. Expert. So I guess the question here, I'm going to just put the link for the article in here as well, then you've got it. Before I, the question, I suppose, is if we are all experiencing different levels of the imposter syndrome, if we are all having different thoughts and feelings around this, I'm curious to hear from all of you, what is it that you do to help yourself overcome these things? What are the techniques? What are the ways of working? What are the things that you do to help yourself build confidence? Because if we each share our ideas, hopefully there'll be something one of you share that will help someone else. Who would like to go first? Anyone want to chat and share what they do?
Yeah, I think for me, I have conversations with myself. Sometimes sort of in the mirror, or sometimes just when I'm talking, I have those kind of good enough conversations. Like, you know what, you're good enough. I mean, I was reading something interesting about how, you know, we used to live in small villages, so it was quite in some ways it was quite easy to shine. Whereas now we'll live in a town of like 4 million, so very few of us are going to shine. And so we're not getting that positive feedback all the time. So I often just have conversations. I'm proud of you about this. You did great with that. Well done on this. I'm happy about that. That wasn't your best, but how could you improve it next time? And I find that kind of having that conversation often with myself, I kind of end up having more self-approval than other approval, you know, worrying about other approval as much, you know. It kind of mitigates if somebody's being negative, and it just adds to if someone's being positive. But I do think how I treat myself is more important than how other people treat me, in a way.
I like that. I like that. Any other ideas? I see your hands up.
Yes, for me, it was mainly just about not being afraid to say, like, I don't know, or I can't help you because maybe this isn't my area of expertise. But as opposed to just feeling like, oh, but I'll get back to you, like after doing some intense research, so just so I could help that specific person. So it's just being about being more okay with not having all the answers, basically.
Okay, interesting. Dee, yours is off.
Yeah, I also feel like sometimes when I'm pushing myself to extremes, you have to also have a self-awareness and think about what you're doing and think about what you think about, and try and get off that train, you know, that you're on every day, and trying to do this and that. And yeah, because at the end of the day, our health is also important, and we need to find rest, and we need to have moments of quiet, and then also to give ourselves grace. Yeah.
Fantastic. Let's be kind to yourself.
Frankie? So just what the previous two have actually said, it's the be kind to self. What I found interesting was I started doing this, I do it pretty much almost every other day now, but it's 3 sentences that I say to myself, and each sentence has got 7 different endings. And the first sentence is, Frances, I'm proud of you for. Frances, I forgive you for. And Frances, I commit to you that. And those is just, it's looking at things that I'm proud of me for having done, the things that I forgive myself. And it's ways of constantly giving myself the permission to just, one, say no and be okay with it. And in the forgiving thing is, I forgive you for actually, you know, not saying no that time, but at least you're learning to say yes this time, you know, those type of things that I do. So that's helped me quite a lot, because it's made me aware of the things that I'm doing right and giving me the permission to be kind to myself.
So it was proud, forgive, and I've missed the last one, Frankie.
I commit to you that. And it's literally today, I commit to you that you'll be aware of yourself, or I commit to you that you will drink a glass of water. It's just little things, but it's just being kinder to me than being kinder to everyone else and mean to myself.
Fantastic. Maya.
Okay, I agree that being kind to myself helps a lot. Also, being able to say, I don't know. But I found that what helps me a lot is to talk about my fears and what makes me feeling like imposter, or why do I feel why I don't have enough confidence, or if it is, for example, related to some presentation, and if I am afraid, if I feel like I'm not good enough and I don't know how will I answer questions, and so just saying it aloud, it helps me calm down and overcome this fear. Also, it helps me a lot to push myself to do things that scare me, because when I see that I can do that, then it's a huge self-confidence booster. You know, after that, after I finish and I see, yes, I can answer these questions, or I can finish that job, or such things. I think that they are great for my self-confidence.
That's awesome. I love that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Laura.
I think what's quite interesting is that when we observe others, we actually begin to realize that everybody is struggling, and some people are better at acting the part than others. But if you spend time observing, you realize that everyone comes with fears. And once you begin to realize that, you can actually bring kindness and compassion to the space that those people are in and allow space for their fears, which then a little, as Maya was saying, allows you to then be more authentic. You create a space in which it's okay to talk about your fears, and it's also okay not to know everything. None of us knows everything. And by creating that space where everyone feels able to, instead of putting on this front and pretending, some of us better than others, you actually create a space in which learning can flow, and there's more authenticity and scope for sharing, and scope for being honest about what we do and don't know, what we can bring to a situation, and where we still have need to learn, I guess.
No, that's awesome. Khulud. Have I said that right?
Yes. You. Sorry?
Khulud, you had your hand up, I think.
Yes, exactly. So what I have learned newly is actually being mindful of my feelings and how I feel in a certain moment, and to learn how to first I recognize it, and then if I need to communicate, to learn how to communicate my needs as well, how to manage my feelings and my words when I am communicating. And this allows me to accept as well myself, accept what I feel, what I think, and just it is okay, whatever I'm feeling or whatever I know or I don't know, just the way I am communicating to the outside, that's if I do it in the right way or I learn how to do it, everything is fine, regardless what will come from the other side.
Fantastic. I love it. Pretty, your hands up.
Thanks, Chantal. For me, I think, it's about name it to tame it. And when you're feeling a certain way or behaving in a certain manner, it is about what is behind that. And if you understand why you feel you have to do that, why you feel you have to respond or show up in a certain way, and you're able to accept and understand where it's coming from, it then helps you so much better to say, okay, now I accept this and I need to change it. I accept this and I feel this is good for me and I'll continue to do it. So that's what's helped me a lot to progress.
Fantastic. We've got about 5 minutes left, ladies, so I'm going to just share some of the examples of what I have used with clients before and then wrap up. Now, where is it gone? There we go. It's that one. So some of the techniques I've used with clients is a letter from your younger self, recognizing you for what has been achieved, what you have done in the journey of your life. And it's amazing how a letter from your 10-year-old self to your adult self, recognizing you for what you have done, opens your eyes to some of the things that you've forgotten, some of the successes that you don't think of as successes. And it's a fantastic tool to just open your thinking and to look at things differently. Another tool is a vision board. So looking forward, what is it you want to achieve? Where are you going? What is your purpose in life? In fact, I have mine up on my wall in front of me right here. So I look at mine every single day, and there's a saying there that says, I'm braver now than I was 10 years ago, which just reminds me that it's okay. I'm doing stuff differently. I'm starting a business, but it's okay. Recognizing the triggers. This is so important because I think there's certain times where we are confident, and there's certain times, like I said, going to a face-to-face networking event is my worst thing. But I recognize the trigger. I know it's a trigger, so I can consciously work through that so I can be different. Celebrating success daily. This is a fantastic one. If you really are feeling down, is at the end of the day, take time in a journal, in a book, somewhere that you are happy to write it down, to recognize yourself with 3 things you've done well today, and put those there. And lastly, working with a coach or a mentor. As I mentioned, I work with a lot of clients on these things. We work through things around confidence. We work about saying no. We work with clients in many different aspects of leadership. And sometimes just using a coach as a sounding board can make a world of difference. In fact, for those of you who aren't aware, I do offer executive coaching with leaders, business coaching if you're a small business, EQ specific coaching, career coaching, CV writing, and interview preparation. So I do offer a wide range of services for those of you who might be interested. But more importantly, I would love to hear from all of you, just briefly in the chat box, thoughts on today's session. What has been your biggest takeout today? Because I think it's quite important that we wrap up with something important, which is what you've learned from the last hour. What is it that you have experienced? Yeah, I love Frankie's 3 questions as well. I'm going to write them into my email that I send to everyone. Awesome. I'm okay. Any other learnings? Frankie's questions. Frankie, you're adding value in lives here today. Recognizing triggers. Okay. Loved everyone's inputs. Okay. So ladies, this is the end of the conversation. If anyone would like to chat to me after, to add anything, I will stay on the call. If anyone's got any specific issues they'd like to chat through, by all means, stay on and we'll chat at the end. If you want to talk to everyone in general, go for it. But this is officially the end of the call. Our next call is on the 25th of November. And I'm